Good evening, guys. I'm super pumped to be going over this topic with you guys here tonight. Obviously, the discussion is going to be focused on building your target list of schools and really focusing on finding the right fit for you and your college journey. And I really do think that this is one of the biggest components of the recruiting process, as it's something you're going to be doing at the beginning of your recruiting process all the way throughout your end. So, a very great topic for us to be talking about here tonight. So before we get started, to kick things off here, my name is Kayla, and I am a customer success specialist here at SportsRecruits. I also went to Mount Aloysius College soccer. I was a student athlete there, or Mount Aloysius College, my bad. And I played soccer there for 4 years. I graduated in 2023. So I love, helping student athletes, get to that next level. And this is such a great place to start and such a great topic to really help you find that right school for you. So, in regards to tonight's agenda, we're going to really focus in on what are the factors that go into determining the right college fit, right? So, how are you going to be looking and analyzing schools, and what are some things that you need to be looking at to make those decisions? The second part of our presentation is going to be really geared towards the organizational side of it and how you can use sports recruits and the school search tool specifically to stay organized throughout building your target list of schools. And we're also going to talk about features such as the favoriting tool and how you can use them to your advantage while building out this list. And lastly, we're really going to talk about strategies to analyze where you stand throughout the recruiting process and throughout this while you're building this target list of schools. And obviously, at the end, we will have some time for some questions. So if you guys have questions throughout the presentation tonight, please feel free to send them into the chat. If I don't see them while I'm presenting, I'll definitely answer them at the end. But just know, like, if there's something on your mind and you don't want to wait, just put it in the chat and we'll be sure to get to it at the end. Okay, so kind of jumping right in here, kind of the first part of the presentation, really determining the right college fit. So here at Sports Recruits, we believe that choosing a college is not just a 4-year decision, it's a 40-year decision. And, we're not trying to, put a lot of pressure around that, but it is a huge decision and there is a lot of factors that go into, choosing the school that is best fit for you academically and athletically, but we're also going to hone in on some other categories that you need to be considering while you're building out this list. So we believe that it's really based on these 5 categories when you're building out your target list of schools and when you're making the decision for what school is best fit for you. So obviously we have the academic fit, right? Do they have your major? Are you academically challenged? Things of that sort. The athletic fit. What level of athletics do you want to be playing at? When do you want to see the field? Those types of questions to be asking yourself. The geographical fit, how far do you want to be away from home? The different climate. There's a lot of things to consider there as well. Then you have the social fit, right? Looking at factors such as the student population, Greek life clubs, and then the financial fit. So really like evaluating, the financial aid and how you and your family can help you move on with a college in a financial aspect. So just to keep in mind, I'm gonna break these down in a little bit more detail on the following slides. I'm really gonna dive into the different types of questions you need to be asking yourself to answer, is this a good school for me, academically, athletically, geographically, socially, and financially. So in regards to the academic fit, okay, so some of the, one of the first things you want to ask yourself is confirm that the schools that you're looking at have the major or majors that you might be potentially interested in. And, you guys might be sitting out there thinking like, Kayla, I am a freshman in high school. Like I have no idea what I want to major in, in college. And that's okay. That is okay. Like we here at Sports Recruits, and I guarantee your guidance counselors don't expect you to have that information figured out. But it's just something to keep in mind, like when you're browsing for schools. So, for example, my college, Mount Aloysius, it was a liberal arts college. So I got to take a lot of different prerequisite courses that exposed me to a lot of different outlets before I really needed to decide on my specific major. So that might be something to consider if you're kind of up in the air about what you want to study, maybe leaning into more liberal arts colleges and doing that kind of research. But while you're looking for these throughout these schools, like go on their website, browse the majors, look at, the types of things that they may offer, especially like the different types of classes. Like, is there something that interests you that really sparks your interest or that intrigues you? Is there a certain class that you're really excited to take? So ask yourself those types of questions as you're looking through these schools' websites. So, I also really think it's important to, when thinking about the academic fit, like what class size are you okay with being in? Like, how big do you want to, like, what kind of school do you want to be at? Because for me, for example, like my school was very small. So I was in a classroom at one point with 10 other people, maybe actually, maybe even smaller than that, maybe like six other people when I was a senior. Um, but like, do you want a small class size? Are you okay with being in an auditorium in a lecture hall with 400 plus people? Like, things to consider about your academic experience that could, alter your decision. You also want to research if your grades and your standardized test scores, if you've taken them yet, are in line with your school's academic standards. So if you're looking at schools, you want to make sure that, your GPA is lining up with their maybe admissions requirements or your test scores are lining up with their admissions requirements. So just different types of questions to ask yourself. And that kind of goes into the next point of really leaning into your academic advocates, whether that be your guidance counselor, your college counselor, or different teachers that you may trust to really seek their opinion and just kind of go over with them like, hey, I'm looking at this college, like, do you think this could be a good fit for me academically? And having those honest conversations with them will really help you hone in on how to determine if a school's a good academic fit for you. So getting into the athletic fit and this component. So asking yourself first and foremost, is this school a realistic option for you? Meaning when you're looking at this school, right? Um, whether that be NCAA Division 1, 2, 3, or NAIA JUCO, like, is this a place that you could play at and could see yourself playing at, right? I think a good rule of thumb is maybe asking yourself, do I want to play at a school that I might not see the field until I'm a junior or a senior, but I could play at a national championship at some point throughout my career? Or asking yourself, as a freshman, do I want to come in and, be exposed to playing time right away and come in immediately and make an immediate difference, right? And get on the field as an underclassman. I think those are kind of questions to be asking yourself too, and to think about athletically, like where you want to fit into that. I think another rule of thumb too is asking yourself if any athletes on your club or high school team have gone on to compete at the school or conference that you're looking in. I think that sometimes, especially with clubs, like that's a really good way to gauge, like, okay, like my club is notoriously known for getting kids to play at the Division 1 level, so on and so forth. But again, that also comes into leaning into your advocates, right? Because every athlete is different. And I think that's something that's important to note that, you might have kids on a club team that are going to all different divisions. So it's really important to lean into your athletic advocates, such as your coaches, your trainers, your recruiting coordinators for advice. And again, having those honest conversations with them and asking them, like, hey, could I compete here realistically, based on my performance, based on my skills that you've known and you've watched me do, like, is this reasonable for me? Or is this a reach, which we're going to touch on in a little bit. But just some of those things to keep in mind athletically when making just these choices and adding schools to your list. So the geographic fit, I personally think this is one of the most important factors when deciding like when making a college decision, is how far do you want to be from home? Like, do you want to get on a plane and fly across the country? Are you okay with that? Or are you okay with being within a driving distance within home? Or do you want to be very local and go to a local school? I think those are really important questions to ask yourself, especially as someone graduating college, like this is a huge decision. So make sure you're asking yourself those questions at an early age too, and while you're starting to think of adding these schools to your list. Another great question to ask yourself is, what is your ideal climate? Do you want to be in the south, like where it's warm? Do you want to be in the north where it snows a lot because maybe you enjoy skiing, snowboarding, those types of activities? Or do you want a school that maybe offers all 4 seasons? Again, something to keep in mind because, you are going to be living there for, a majority of the year. So definitely something to consider. You don't want to go to school in the mountains if you don't like snow. So Definitely something to keep in mind while you're starting to formulate this list for sure. And we always talk about too, just if family and friends being nearby is something that is important to you, then you want to consider that while you're building out this list. And if you want them to be, frequent flyers at your games and you want them to see you perform all the time, like that's something that to keep in mind, right? While you're asking yourself these questions and while you're looking at different schools and different places throughout the country. We also really like to talk about the social fit and the social aspect of fitting in a school. So, what's the student population like? Can you see yourself fitting in there? Is Greek life something that's important to you? Is that an experience that you want to maybe investigate or explore when you're in college? Is there certain clubs that you're really interested in and or want to try maybe in the off season or different organizations that maybe pique your interest? Doing a deeper dive and looking at them on the college website, I think is super important. And I also is could be something that's, really beneficial when you're making that ultimately that final decision because when you're out of season, right? Like you want to be able to make sure that you're doing things that, you can fill your time and that make you happy other than maybe playing your sport all the time. Another thing to consider too, like, do you want to maybe study abroad? Is that something that's interesting to you? Like, can you do that while maybe playing a sport? So investigating that and really looking into maybe what are the living conditions like? Like, do you have to live on campus all 4 years? Can you maybe get an apartment while you're an upperclassman? Like, what does the meal plans look like? Do they have different, you know, types of meal plans and things of that sort? So, all these different types of questions to be, again, asking yourself so you can make that decision socially that is the best fit for you as well. And lastly, the financial fit. So, what are you and your family able to cover for your tuition, room, and board? And I do think that this is a conversation that is obviously like very important to have while you're going through the recruiting process, but these are kind of decisions and conversations that are being had at towards the end, right? Towards the tail end. Because usually when you're closer to making a decision, you can talk with the coach about different merit-based or athletic-based scholarships when you're really close to making that final decision to see if that can offset some of the price of attending that specific university. But there's also some other things to consider, right? Like, would you potentially be eligible for the FAFSA and those different types of opportunities? So, again, just keeping that in the back of your mind while you're starting to formulate and compile this list of schools that is then going to be kind of your base for, outreach and for continuing your recruiting process. So kind of just circling back here to the beginning, we kind of really dove deep into each different, asset or topic that we feel at Sports Recruits, are important when making that decision and making and finding your best fit. So we always say that if towards the end of your recruiting process, if you can check off 4 out of 5 of these categories, then that is probably like a very good fit for you. And something to keep in mind too is that we don't want you to just hone in on the athletic side of a school, right? We talk a lot about here the broken leg test. So if you were to go to a school and you were to break your leg or you were to injure yourself and you weren't able to play that season, you need to ask yourself, would I still continue to enjoy going to this school without playing this sport? Because that's really important because things like that do happen. And that goes back to really, you know, looking at each of these categories holistically so you can really have a great college experience that coincide with athletics as well. Additionally, like building out your target list, like we recommend adding 20 to 30 schools to your initial list and having a combination of reach, fit, and safety schools, which we'll kind of dive into what those mean a little bit later in our conversation. But making sure you're having a good list to start. And at Sports Recruits, again, like I said, we recommend starting out with 20 to 30 and understanding that this process is fluid and your target list is going to change frequently as you move throughout the recruiting process. So you might have 5 schools on your list as a freshman that might change between your sophomore, junior, senior year as you start to interact with coaches, as you start to get on campus. So understanding that just because you put 20 schools down in the beginning doesn't mean that they have to stay there. It's going to be constantly evolving and constantly changing as you change and grow throughout the recruiting process as well. So, kind of moving into how to stay organized and how to use sports recruits, especially the school search tool, to stay organized throughout building your target list of schools. So, in your profile tab, which probably some of you have seen, there is a school tab. So, when you click on that tab, it's going to take you to our school search tool. And here in the school search tool, you can search and filter for every college program in the country. That ranges from NCAA, Division One schools, all the way down to club and JUCO level schools as well, and anywhere in between. So very unique that you have that built into your profile, essentially at your fingertips. So, kind of circling back to those five categories that we discussed earlier, we built our school search tool around those specific categories. So you can really narrow in on your search based on different athletic, academic, and social criteria that might be important to you. So again, if you're looking for a specific region, you can put that in the school search tool and hit apply filter, and it will essentially populate all of those schools that are, following the filters that you put on. So if you're looking for a certain major and you want it to be maybe a certain major in California and you want it to be a Division One school, apply those filters and then it will generate a long list of schools for you to certainly sift through and gather some information that way. So with each school that is populated in your list, you will have the opportunity to click on that individual school's link and it will take you to their school's landing page. Now, on each school's landing page, it's going to have fast facts about additional information about the college. So it's going to have a athletic program overview. It's going to talk about maybe a different admissions rates, different, requirements for admissions, the location, the financial aid, if they offer scholarships, like those types of things. Fast facts that you, as a potential, prospect, could look at and get a general like overview of the college. So from there, you can make a decision like, oh wow, this school really aligns with what I'm looking for. I'm gonna, add this to my list by favoriting this school. And with that, I'm gonna really talk about the favorite tool that we offer on the platform. So as you're navigating these schools, you land on their landing page, or maybe a school pops up in the activity feed or a school search. You can automatically heart or what we call favorite the school. So it takes you to a unique and organized list that is found on your school tab of the profile. So on this list, it will show, every school that you favorited on the Sports Recruits platform, and you have a lot of flexibility to play around with these schools that you favorited. So, like I said, it will automatically store your favorites in this organized list. And then once you get into this list, you can really use it as an organizational tool to categorize the different schools as reach, fit or safety, as you can see kind of in the video here. You can also sort them by ranking them. So like if, for example, Mount Aloysius College is your number one school, you can move that to the top of your list, and then you can move the other colleges that you have favorited accordingly beneath that. And I also think it's really cool. It's just a centralized way for you to have a list of schools that you can potentially like message directly from our platform in one place. It keeps it really organized. Like I know for me personally, when I was going through the recruiting process, I didn't have a tool like this. So I had like a bajillion tabs open all the time. Like, I had a Google Excel doc. I was opening this Google Doc or like this document here to try to keep track of everything. So, we've built this to really make it an organized and streamlined process for you to keep track of your favorites and your list of schools that you're building. Now, let me take a step back here and preface by saying we do get a lot of questions about, Kayla, can a college coach view my favorite list of schools, like my entire list? The answer is no. A college coach cannot see this unique list of schools. It's only for you, parents and guardians, and maybe club staff to look at just so you can stay organized in your search. They can, however, see if you favorited their specific program. So, similar to the student athlete side of the platform, you guys have your ways to log in and you have your profiles. There's a college coach side to the platform as well, where they can log in directly through their unique Sports Recruits login, and they can sift through and search for recruits based on, GPA, graduation year, roster needs, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But they can also sift through and search for student athletes who have favorited their program. So the to long-winded to that to that explanation is, if I favorite Mount Aloysius College, but I also favorite Franklin and Marshall is not going to be able to see that I favorited Mount Aloysius College. They're only going to be able to see that I favorited Franklin and Marshall. So kind of moving into the, roster needs aspect of the school search tool. So this is really a great way to stay transparent in the recruiting process and for you to really have a deeper understanding of what maybe specific colleges are looking for. So, roster needs are basically the open roster spots that a college is recruiting for in the upcoming class years. So, needs are published and maintained directly by college coaches on SportsRecruits. So, we're constantly reaching out to college coaches and asking them to make frequent updates to their roster needs and really continuing to keep those live and active so you guys are aware that this is the most up-to-date information that they are currently searching for. For example, here we have on the screen like a volleyball program. They're searching for liberos, they're searching for outside hitters, like specifically for this grad year. And I think it's really cool because it can get really, really specific and unique. Like there has been times we've seen college coaches, put in needs that they need a 2026 with that's maybe, a lefty with this GPA with and has video on their profile, right? So when you go into the school search tool, and you're looking for schools, you'll see the option to see if you're a full or a potential match with these schools based on the needs that they are publishing through our database. So you'll be able to see directly, based on your profile, the information that you have filled out on there, if you have video, if you're a certain grad year, a certain position, that automatically before you even search schools or filter for them, that you have a potential match with a school that is based on their published roster needs. So that's something to really keep in mind too while you're going through the school search, is using that to your advantage too, especially since they're obviously constantly updating these. And I think it's really unique too to see, like, especially position and grad year, like if you're looking for a specific or if you're a specific position, it can really be useful for that as well. I also think it's important to note too, a lot of colleges do require in their roster needs that you have video posted to your profile. This way, when you reach out to them and you say, like, hey, I'm so and so, I'm this position, this grad year, automatically to them, it's like, okay, they definitely like are fitting my roster needs. Then they want to go to your profile and they want they want to be able to evaluate you right then and there, essentially by watching your video. So something to keep in mind as you're building out your Sports Recruits profile is to constantly be posting video and keeping that updated as well. So really kind of jumping in here to analyzing where you stand throughout building your target list of schools and throughout, just evaluating this list constantly throughout your recruiting process. So some things to consider. So I know I've been saying a lot tonight, like reach, fit, and safety schools, but I really feel like I haven't given like a proper definition of them. So when I say reach, it means a reach academically is that your grades, GPA test scores are, typically below average the, student that's accepted there. So not saying that you can't get accepted there, right? But just understanding that it is a little bit more of a reach. Same with that if a reach is athletically, right? Maybe your video is just not lining up, or you've seen people try to commit there in the past and your skill level isn't just there. It's just a little bit of a reach. It's not saying that you can't play there or can't get accepted there. It's just more of a reach for you. Whereas a fit school athletically is, your level of play is at their level of play. Like you could definitely compete there. And academically, your grades are right there where the average student is getting accepted. Like you're basically kind of on par to getting accepted, both athletically and academically. Whereas more of a safety school, right, your grades are well above average, the average student that's accepted there, and your athletic level of play is way above the typical athletes that play there. So when you're building out this target list, it's really important to have a combination of these schools throughout your list. So you're not putting all of your eggs into one basket. Because, if you're going through your recruiting process and you are, just favoriting like a bunch of reach schools, it's going to get really hard when you're kind of trying to do outreach and things of that sort. Because we just recommend like casting a wide net and putting yourself out there and just really not putting all of your eggs into one basket to really make sure that you're having a transparent and realistic recruiting process. I also think it's important too to consider the popularity of the school if you're adding them to your list. So, for example, if you're wanting to play at the top 10 Division 1, 2, or 3 schools like throughout that whole conference, it's really important to note that it might take 4 to 5 messages, like, you might have to reach out to them 4 or 5 different times before you receive a message back, because these top schools are getting hundreds, I mean, hundreds of emails throughout the summer, throughout event season, from kids all across the country. So, just understanding that if you are reaching out to those bigger schools, it might take more of an effort from you, and also just to understand, like, a lot of kids are also reaching out. So just to continue, being persistent, but also understanding there is competition when you are, having a lot, when you have a lot of reach schools on your list. So again, going back to kind of that initial point is just having a combination of reach, fit, and safety. So your list is very, well spread out. I also think really being honest with yourself, getting a second opinion, and I know I've mentioned this a couple times tonight, but asking honest questions and having honest conversations with your athletic advocates and academic advocates, it really goes a long way and will help you really, with that fluidity of your list, right? As you move through, maybe your grades progress, maybe your skills progress, like your list may change. So just continue having those conversations and starting them at a young age as well. And that kind of goes into my next point, reassessing and rebuilding. Like as you change throughout your 4 years of high school, your list is surely going to change as well. So make those adjustments accordingly, right? Like if you visit a college and maybe it's not what you expected, it's okay to remove that off your list. Or if you visit a college and you really like it and it's not on your list, add it on there and maybe give it a rank or categorize it as a, reach, fit, or safety school. And obviously, again, kind of going back to like the foundation of conversations is just leaning into your advocates, both athletically and academically. I think it's really important to just really emphasize this because having those conversations, especially with your coaches to help clarify like what a reach school for you is as an athlete is super important because they know you as a player, right? But they will also be honest with you to really help you take your recruiting process seriously. And that you never know, that may open up a conversation. Like maybe they have a connection with a coach at another school, and that could be like an introduction for you just by having that simple conversation with them. It also might show to them that you're truly very serious about taking this process and like getting recruited and playing at the next level. So I think that that is also something to keep in mind is from a club coach's perspective when they see you coming to them and making asking those questions, it really shows that your commitment to this process and they'd be maybe would be more willing to help you. And same academically as well, is if you evolve as a student and you're continually having those conversations with your academic advocate, things may shift on your list. Like things may be more of a fit or a safety school rather than a reach school academically for you. So then just kind of working with your list and really trying to align that with all the other factors that we really talked about tonight. And also using SportsRecruits to really track your progression as you're building this list. So in the favorite section of your list, you'll see that like under each school, there is like a little gray drop down bar, and you can hit that little caret and it will essentially drop you down to see what you're viewing on the screen here. And it'll basically track for you, if you've introduced yourself to that school and sent an introduction message, you'll get a check. If you are on a club team, we do offer the ability for you to request help from a club staff member, and they might be able to help you formulate a message or maybe walk you through, like, again, having that conversation with them. If you receive a review of you from that specific college, we will let you know on this progress bar. And it will also show you how many times that they viewed your video, they viewed your profile, how many times that you sent them a message, how many times that, how many messages you received from them. And then the last three, like whether you visit them on campus, whether you get an offer, obviously, if you commit, those are for you guys to check off. But it's just, again, another centralized way for you to keep your recruiting efforts organized in this one space and for you to access your target list of schools in and directly on your profile. So again, it's avoiding you from making the Excel docs, having different tabs pulled up when all you have to do is simply log into your SportsRecruits profile, have this list pulled up, and then continue to build from there. Okay. But any questions? Okay, I have one question here. How many college/coaches use this platform? So don't know the specific number to this, and however, I do know that there's like from all divisions and everything, like there are so many coaches on our platform that are actively using this. And if you guys actually check out our Sports Recruits 2024 halftime report, that's a great, it kind of talks about like our data from the first 6 months of 2024. So I would definitely like look into that. Um, and that's something too, like we could send to you as well, on our team. But that will really kind of go into the data there and how many college coaches were registered on the platform. I'm sorry, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but yeah. Yeah, we can send you that information. It kind of gives you like a deeper dive of how many college coaches were active on the platform and how many athletes were on the platform as well. Any other questions? I think I have one here too. Um, If you are messaging a top school, how often do you have to message them and what do you have to say every time you message them? This is a great question. So, we recommend that anytime you have news to share with a college coach, you should be sending them a message. So, for example, initially introducing yourself, including that hit like in the subject line, like Kayla Shaw introduction message or Kayla Shaw 2024 lacrosse recruit, in that introduction messages. We recommend, again, reaching out to them anytime you have an update. So if you take your SAT and you got a great score and you want to share that with them, hey, coach, you know, 1200 on SAT, make that the subject line. You can reach out to them with that update. If you post a new video or you make a new highlight reel, hey, coach, here's this new video I posted, this highlight reel. Really want you to check it out. Provides me some feedback. If you're going to an event, I know there's a lot of events coming up, especially in the fall. You can reach out to them, be like, "Hey, coach, here's my schedule for this event. Hope really for you to come see me play live." Things of that sort. But again, there's no as long as you have a reason to message them, we recommend you reach out and continue that outreach. It may take a couple times, like you said, if you're messaging a top school to get through to them, and that's okay. But we say like if it gets to like the point where it's like you're sending like 15 messages and you haven't heard anything back yet, maybe then it might be time to reevaluate and take a step back. Um, but yeah, in regards to just sending them updates, if you have something, send it to them and put it in the subject line. In regards to what to say every time you message them, in regards to like introducing yourself, we have templates on our website that you can use to help you send messages. But yeah, just using kind of any updates throughout your recruiting process as an excuse and as a way to contact college coaches directly. Do college coaches have to log into the platform to view or reply to your messages, or does it come from their regular email? This is a great question. So college coaches do have to log in to their sports recruits page to reply to your message or to see the message. However, when you send a message to a college coach, it appears in their inbox as like a normal regular message. So no, the answer to your question is no, they essentially don't need to really log in to message you back because they can just log message you back directly from their inbox. But sometimes college coaches do like logging in if they're already in there to send messages. Do we have to message their head coach or someone else? We usually have head coaches and assistant coaches and sometimes recruiting coordinators or recruiting directors in our database. So whenever you type in the messaging system, like when you type in a college, so if you go to the messaging system and type in Mount Aloysius College, you can just hit Mount Aloysius College and we're automatically going to send that message to every coach that we have. Like if you hit the Mount Aloysius College, you can select what coach you want to send it to. If it wants to be all of them, that's great. Sometimes head coaches, have their assistants really deal with the messagings or the messages throughout recruiting processes. So we just recommend, if the email's there, like definitely send it to them. And sometimes the assistants will respond back if the head coach maybe isn't taking the message directly. So definitely just put as many on there as possible, I think, and especially as the introduction. But if you do get into a conversation with the coach, like maybe the assistant responds back and you're going back and forth with them, then I would just message them directly moving forward. All right. But I think that kind of covered all the questions that we had come in here. Thank you guys for attending tonight. I also want to drop in the chat here real quick before we end tonight's webinar. Our recruiting specialist, if you are interested in learning more about the different packages that we have here, you can book a 15-minute call with one of our recruiting specialists, and they'd be happy to go over, you know, all of that information with you. So let me just toss that in here real quick. Yeah, so just a 15-minute call, but there's the link to their calendar, and they'll kind of go over maybe the different packages that we offer, and then the different types of support that we can provide, the recruiting analyst team can provide for you. All right, but that kind of concludes tonight's webinar, guys. Thank you so much. And again, please note that this also will be sent to you. The recording will be sent to you too. So if you want to go back and reference it for more information, feel free to do so. But have a great rest of your evening. Bye.